My name is Allison Kaplan. I'm Director of Education at the National First Ladies Library. I do want to mention that we are knee deep in holiday programming right now, and we have some really cool activities at the National First Ladies Library, um, including in the next few days, if you go on our Facebook, there is a great conversation with our archivist and curator, Michelle, about Nancy Reagan and her greeting cards. It should be really fun. We do have a book club program, and we also have a film program where you can watch a film online and attend a discussion. The films are either related to first ladies, women's issues, or women who are first in their field. And we try to connect them with local people who are local to us or experts in that field to have a conversation with us about it. And then we have a number of children's programs. So if you have a grandchild or child out there looking for something fun to do, we do a Ladies in the Lab program, which is a special science kit that you get in the mail with all sorts of supplies and stuff that relates to a woman in science. So you learn a little history, you also learn a little STEM, and we also have a Fun with FLOTUS program for kids that's live, that's coming up this coming Tuesday, a week from Tuesday, that's all about holidays at the White House. The first one that we did that was live last month was about Thanksgiving, and it was really, really fun. So I'm super excited about that. So Sarah just posted the link so you can access Eventbrite and sign up for any of our other upcoming programs. And we should have a lot of fun virtual things coming up in the new year too. So stay tuned for those. I am joined tonight by Denise Lehman. So I am going to be providing the history part, and Denise is our not only historian, but crafter historian, and she's going to provide the crafty part of tonight's presentation. So we are going to be discussing Betty Ford and her 1974 Christmas decorations at the White House. And Denise is an expert in First Ladies and crafts, as she not only is a tester of knitting and crochet patterns, but she is working on a forthcoming book that is First Lady inspired crafts from Ida McKinley to Barbara Bush and beyond. So lots
Martha
of fun stuff.
Washington
Oh yeah, from
with
Martha.
my mother, Joanna Titus.
Many of the people who joined us last time we did First Ladies Night, and Denise was with us, may have remembered the great Martha Washington needlepoint that we did. So that was a kit that we mailed to people, but this time we provided everybody with the supplies for a few reasons. But one is because Betty Ford really intended for people to be able to find all of these materials in their home. It was really about creating creating decorations that anybody could have in their own home for the White House. So what we're going to look at tonight, she actually created a little pamphlet or little materials to send out to families that they could do this too. So she really not only thought of the White House as this like beautiful place that had these very aspirational decorations, but she wanted to make sure that she was connecting to people and that it was kind of a homespun holiday theme for the time that she was there. So I'm going to get started and share my screen, and we're going to talk a little bit about one of my very favorite first ladies. I like them all, but Betty Ford was just so fun. She's so cool. Um, and we will get to chatting about her. Here we go. Okay. So we chose 1974 as our starting point, and the crafts that we are creating tonight, you can actually see in this image, we'll show them again a little bit later as we get started. But it's really about this kind of folksy homespun feeling. And you can see the patchwork material. She really felt like people could connect with things, scrap fabric they had at home. Um, in creating these. So why 1974? Well, August 9th, 1974, Gerald Ford became president of the United States upon the resignation of Richard Nixon from office. And one of the things I've been thinking about is how much really happens right around the holidays that impacts these first ladies. So thinking about JFK, who was murdered right before Thanksgiving, to here Richard Nixon is resigning right around August. So if you're a first lady, you're most likely knee deep in the nitty gritty of holiday planning. So there's a huge impact on the country, and Betty Ford really said, as they created this and as all of these receptions were happening, she said, in the blue room, Jerry pointed to the magnificent tree that stretched clear to the ceiling and told the thousand guests from the Hill, the cabinet, the senior White House staff, that he and the Christmas tree, also from Michigan, had a lot in common. Quote, a few months ago, neither one of us expected to be in the White House. So Betty really was propelled into this position. It wasn't anything that she expected. And here she was by Christmas, standing in front of this grand Christmas tree in the Blue Room with these amazing patchwork bows behind her. And she was really interested in making a contrast to the decorations that came before her. So, looking at Pat Nixon here, although a lot of the things that we're seeing are kind of like the tinsel that you would buy at the dime store as far as the gold goes, Pat Nixon had teamed up with Saks Fifth Avenue for the White House decorations when she was First Lady. And Betty Ford really wanted it to seem as if she was really connecting to the American people, that she wasn't spending a lot of money, that it was the glitz and the glam of the holiday. But what we'll learn is that she actually spent more than any first lady before her on Christmas. And I think part of it was she was working with artisans and the cost of it was really expensive. So, what the official press release talked about the warmth, humility, and endearing simplicity are the cornerstones for the White House Christmas decor this year. The Fords have arrived, and with them blow the winds of hometown America. Suddenly, the unusually opulent White House has become a home in which any American would feel comfortable at Christmas. So the country's going through a recession at the time. There are long gas lines, and Ford has considered inflation public enemy number one. So it was really important that the decorations at the time really be a little bit less glam, a little more muted. And you can see through different presidential administrations, things change back and forth. So Reagan might be a more glitzier decor versus Carter, where Jimmy Carter actually had more of a role than most presidents in talking about and planning the Christmas decor, just because he was really interested being a little bit not as crazy, not as glamorous because of the hostage crisis at the time. He felt like things should be really muted. So there's kind of this push-pull back and forth with the first ladies in decor based on what's going on in the country at the time, and also just their personality and their taste. Um, so the golden tinsel is left behind for a feel like a visit to grandma's house and not really a stately mansion. And that waste not, want not was kind of the theme. And that quilting theme was both in the public and private quarters of the White House at the time. And here's another detail of those. Supposedly, Betty Ford even considered holding a quilting bee at the White House, and her daughter kind of made fun of her, spurring an ornament that she had made. Susan Ford had an ornament made that said Betty Ford in 74, with kind of a quilting motif. So the style was an American made pastel blue fabric, and it was chosen to coordinate with that blue room. There was 300 feet of garland, 18 oversized bows were made from the fabric and hung from the trees. Appalachian crafters and New York quilters made 550 patchwork ornaments in the shapes of balls, pentagons, and lanterns. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So imagine making 550 of those. And if you feel like you're up to that, you can probably put your name in to volunteer to decorate the White House next year. I've heard that if you're good at that kind of thing, you're also good at making bows, that you probably have a good chance. There were also 600 tiny mirrors, homemade space uh, sachets of cinnamon and nutmeg, and tiny baskets filled with nuts, gumdrops, and ribbon candy. I want to make sure everyone's still getting in the room. It looks like they're getting help to get in. That's great. There were also carved wooden toys in the shapes of animals that were hung from the tree and were later given to underprivileged children as gifts. And you can see the quote up um, here. I wanted to utilize the talents of America as well as put people to work, not only those people in Appalachia, but senior citizens across the country. In fact, everything on the tree is handmade from American materials, but people can make these ornaments at home at practically no cost out of scraps of material, milk cartons, shredded newspaper for stuffing, and the like. In fact, I have easy instruction sheets on how to make them, which I know my staff would be happy to give you. I wanted to see how easy it was. And I wanted to see how easy it was and made one myself, a lantern. I'm not a sewer, but it was easy and cost me nothing. I made it out of leftover materials that had been used to make White House napkins several years ago and lace that came from my mother's sewing box that she gave me. So, and we put a few of them, the two that we're going to do tonight, up in the chat, but there are also other ones. So Christmas gift wrapping, she really suggested that people wrap their gifts with fabric. So a lot of times we think about Lady Bird as being the conservationist and kind of ahead of her time, but I feel like that's something that's very on trend today. She also talked about like creating these collages out of the fabric. So you could like wrap them and make a picture on top of the gift if you were really crafty, and gives a suggestion of this Christmas tree pattern below. Oops. And here is the Pentagon Ball that we're going to be doing. So I want to show you this, but we'll get more into it when we get to Denise, but I wanted to give you a feel for what these booklets look like. And they're if you've gotten a chance to see some of the programs and booklets that you get at the White House today, they're really different than what you might see today. Here's the lantern ornament. And here's just a sampling of some of the images. So after these went on view, uh, there were, of course, hundreds of people who went through the White House, especially with a focus here on some of the children. And Jackie Kennedy had established a party for the children of diplomats. And at the time, it was decided that the adults were too interested in the interactions and the socializing and the power plays that happened at these receptions, so that they were just for children. And I think those continued on until Michelle Obama was first lady and then transitioned to military family event. So it was really important and exciting to Betty Ford. And every year Santa was a part of it. So here he is. I don't know who that Santa is. Oh, wait, does it say? Yes, a special assistant to the president, Gerald Ford. And here's another image of her with that tree and her daughter, Susan. And you can see the baskets in the background too with the nuts. So press preview picture. You can see how tall the tree is. So every year, the National Park Service, I think, works to bring that tree in, and the chandelier comes out of that space, and the tree goes up. So it's a very tall, large tree. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance and receiving the tree. And I just want to give you a quick sample of some of the other decor projects that were part of Christmas the other years that Betty Ford was First Lady. And I just sat in on a webinar with a woman who does decorations at the White House and has since Laura Bush was there, and she said the main thing that you really need when you're decorating is a really great apron. So I love that Betty is wearing an apron for this ornament making volunteer activity. So the following year, Betty Ford actually got a lot of flack after the 1974 Christmas because of how much money she spent. And you're going to laugh when you hear how much money she spent. Any ideas how much she spent on Christmas decor at the White House for 1974? Even thinking about inflation, $1,600. But that was supposedly more combined than Nixon, Kennedy, or the Johnson administration. And again, she kind of deflected, saying that she was putting people back to work, that it went to these crafting groups, that it was going to Appalachian people. But she made sure that she paid the bills from her own residence housekeeping budget. And then the next year, she had a sponsor for the decor. So what you're seeing here is 1975. Which was sponsored by Colonial Williamsburg and the Abbey Aldrich Rockefeller Folk Art Collection. And the other thing that I don't have a picture of in this, you can see some of the details of the folk art inspired, but that folksy feel from 1974 still exists. And I love how First Ladies aren't afraid to use things that we would use in our own home. So you can see popcorn on a string. Jackie Kennedy supposedly used crepe paper on her tree. And the tinsel that we saw with the Nixon tree are all sort of part of the decor. But what really happened in 1975 that you'll see up through today is the cranberry tree was part of it. And I actually don't have a picture of that, but you can see some of the more details from that era. Some really great press around it. So there's Susan Ford. They're hanging gingerbread. They're crafting together. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention for those children's parties was, besides Santa Claus, there was another guest. This is 1976, and so this was the bicentennial. So the focus of it was the bicentennial, and you can see how different this one was. But then the other visitor who always came with Betty Ford for these children's parties was Big Bird. And as we transition into our craft portion of tonight, I just want to read this poem that Betty Ford wrote and recited in December 1976, so a little bit later than our craft, for Big Bird, who always came to these receptions. Christmas in our land is full of good cheer with stories of Santa and his many reindeer. Here at the White House, it makes us quite jolly to have you come join us for some holiday folly. And because you're so special, we asked the big bird to tell us some stories that we never heard. And we hope you'll enjoy our big funny treat with Big Bird and friends from Sesame Street. And in Santa's bag is actually balloons. So every child that came to the party got balloons. So there wasn't the, elaborate swag bags that we see today. And you can actually see Mr. Hooper and some of the original cast in the background. So here she is, her last year in the White House. And I've really been thinking about and focusing on that experience of the holidays at the White House and the receptions and the activity and the decorations. But many of the presidents and first ladies actually retreat somewhere else, whether they're headed to Mar-a-Lago or they're headed to Camp David or Kennebunkport for Christmas. And in fact, the Fords spent their Christmas in Vail, Colorado. So here they are enjoying Christmas. And I love contrasting the decorations of the White House those years with those first ladies. It's really fun to see the difference. And so here they are, still entertaining a group of Cub Scouts in 1976. So that is our historic portion, and I'll stop my screen share and turn things over to Denise. Unless anybody has questions, I haven't gotten to look in the chat this time to see. But you're welcome if you have questions for Denise or you have questions about Betty Ford's decorations. Please put them in the chat, and I'm going to turn things over to Denise.
Yeah. I saw at least one person did an ornament already. Did anyone else do one yet? I can't see everybody's faces. I'm kind of sad.
And what I do want to mention, Denise, oh, sorry. We have those directions in the chat. So if you didn't get them through email, the directions for the balls and for the lanterns are in the chat. And I have one more anecdote. I'm sorry, then I'm going to turn it over to you. I was sitting in this talk about Christmas at the White House, and they were talking about the process that they go through. And we've learned that first ladies, all of the ornaments go with them when they leave. So they go to a presidential library, except for the Nixons. And they don't know exactly why. It might have been why the Nixons left, that they got left behind. And for a long time, nobody knew where they were. And there's a big warehouse of stuff related to the White House that's where they stage Christmas. And the woman who wrote this book, Christmas with the First Ladies, was talking about trying to find these ornaments and not knowing where they were and looking around. And she finally found a box in the storage that was said Pat's balls on them. I love that. And then they found the ornaments, and those ornaments actually were continually, once they were found, used in other first ladies decorations too. So those Nixon balls have been recycled. But I just love the idea of the balls. So when I was thinking about the Pentagon balls, I was thinking of Pat Nixon's balls. And now I'm going to turn it over to Denise.
Oh boy. That's how you set me up. Can you hear me all right? Okay. You're muted. I can't go back and forth with you. Anyway, so here's my one lantern I made. And this is probably 70s fabric that I drug out of my collection of fabrics. And then here's one of my Pentagon balls. I made that with some new fabric. But what we'll do is we'll go over how to make those, and I'll just kind of real briefly show you how to make each one of those. And if you have any questions, I mean, feel free to just pop it in the chat or just unmute yourself and just ask away, because I'll be glad to try and answer any questions you have. And I hope all of you will be able to make these. The lantern one is pretty easy, and the Pentagon Ball one is a little more complicated. So let's get started. I'm going to switch cameras here. So hopefully, there we go. All right. And Allison, if at any time you can't hear me or see me, please let me know. So the first one we're going to work on is that the lantern one. I'll show you how we do this. This one is really super easy. So first of all, now, Mrs. Ford said you got to get your cereal box and cut out your pattern. So you want to trace that on a box and cut it out. And then of course, you're gonna like just trace around your line on your fabric and cut it out, right? And you need four pieces for each lantern. And I need to find my, here it is. Nope, that's the wrong one. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna sew those together on the short side. So I did these on my sewing machine. This is really easy to do on the sewing machine or by hand. And I just went from this end down to the point. And you need to sew each of them together, all four of them together. And you're going to end up with basically kind of like this pretty flower. Can you see it all? Upside down, so it's going to be like that. This is definitely Holly Hobby fabric here from the 70s. And then you're going to want to do the top part. And again, I did it on the sewing machine, and I went from this corner up to the pointy corner, because that closes the ends up really nice for you. So then it's going to look like that. And then of course, you want to sew it all shut except for, where's my little hole? A little hole. You want to leave a little hole in the middle. You don't want to leave it at the end, because you want this sewn shut really nice and tight so it doesn't open up on you. So then you want to turn it. And good, I have my chopstick here. And you want to use like a chopstick or something. Let me turn my thing so I can see what I'm doing. And you want to make sure that point is really nice and pointy on each end. A little chopstick or a pencil, popsicle stick, who knows. Anything you get in there to get those points nice and pointy like that. And then of course you got to stuff it. Dun, dun, dun. I'm goofy today. All right. Have all of you ever made stuffed, any of you not made a stuffed animal or a stuffed item? Oh, get in there. And again, the important thing is to get it way up in that corner to make that corner nice and sharp. You want to use the square end of your chopstick if you have it. Get it on up there. And it takes a lot more stuffing than you think it will. Whew. Get in there. And again, just make sure it gets into all those corners. Get them nice and sharp. And then basically you just need to close that up, sew that up, and you've got your lantern. Kind of cute. I like them. I'm going to make a few more of these for my tree. But there you go. And there was somebody who made them or made one already. Who made it already? No one on camera is showing. Who? Who was that?
I did.
Show us yours. There it is. She made it school colors for her grandkids, which is really cool.
Yeah, I can't. There's the logo. It's got the name of the school on it, and I just ironed it on.
All right. So the lantern is just let me switch cameras here for a second. So the lantern is just really easy. Are there any questions about how to make the lantern? The Pentagon ball is a little more complicated. All right. I'm going to switch back and show you kind of the steps to make the Pentagon ball. Okay. So again, you want to trace out your pattern. I got my Beyond Burger here. No endorsements there. We don't want to do endorsements, right? You want to trace it out on your fabric. You're going to need to cut out 12 pieces for the Pentagon ball. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take 6 of them and sew them together. So you've got center one here, and then you do 5, one on each side of the center one. So you have, again, like kind of like a little flower like that. And then you need to sew these edges together. So you want to turn them against each other and just sew them up the sides, and you will have what I'll call like a little cupcake. You know, like the little cupcake papers you use for cupcakes. It's kind of that shape. You can see it's really 3D. The pentagons help to make it into a ball really nicely. A lot of people do these with hexagons, but I think the pentagons do a better job for this. And so then you're going to do the other 6 and make the other half. And I made one to show you how these go together, because they go together a little different. So if you can look, you can see this one. You can see this is one half and the blue is the other half. And you can see that the top half sits in the pentagon points, sit in the divot, or the little valley, I guess you would call it, of the bottom one. So that's how it gets sewn. The top and the bottom get sewn together there. So you don't want to match the points. You match the points, you're going to have this big gap. As you can see, you want to match it like this so that the point goes in the little valley there. And Mrs. Ford did a pretty good job of drawing that on her diagram too. Let me find it. And of course, I don't have that page. There it is. So she showed how, whoop, let me come up really close, how the bottom and the top pieces fit together there. The little B's are for the bottom and the T's are for the tops. So you want to do that where the point goes into the valley. And for this one, let me know, can you guys see this little drawing? Okay. For this one, what I did was I did just basically a little running stitch around to attach all the pieces to the center. And then what I did was I went over it again. I'm going to do a different color. I don't know if you can see this too well or not. I did a different color. I did another running stitch, and then I went up the side and then filled in the gaps, came back down and worked my way over to the next one. And then went up the side and then back down again. So this one is better done by hand. I did try to do one on the machine. It turned out pretty wonky because it's pretty difficult. But I think this one is definitely better done by hand. But they're pretty fun to do. And I'm gonna switch cameras again. Dun, dun, dun. And I don't know if anyone has any questions about it, if I went too fast, if I need to show you something again, just go ahead and ask away.
I tried making it, but I did not put the points in the divots.
Uh-huh.
And it made it kind of like a wonky flat. And I knew I did something wrong. So it's real easy to, because it goes together so nicely when you put the two halves together. But if you don't tip them over that one so that the point is in this part.
Right. Yeah, that point has to go into
when you're doing it, you make sure you put the point there. Does that make sense?
When I made the first one, I was like, how does this go together? I was like, oh, okay, I see. And I don't know if any of you are science fiction fans, but it made me think of Darth Vader in Star Wars, and he's got this thing that he sits in, and it comes down like that, and the two pieces come together like that. It's, I'm a sci-fi fan. It's just a crazy thought I had when I was making it.
Where did you put the tie for the Pentagon?
For the Pentagon, I just picked, like I picked the edge where I closed it. So that's on the top. So it won't be as visible, but I just kind of picked that spot and stuck a bit of string through there and just sewed it through and tied it. And of course the lantern, whoop, grabbed the wrong one. Lantern of course goes on the longer top, the longer edge. That's the top, and the shorter edges are at the bottom. So yeah, I just picked the spot where I thought it looked wonkiest and put that up at the top so it wouldn't be as noticeable. You sewers know what I mean. There's always that little spot that you're like, oh, I don't want people to see that.
Have you done any?
Sometimes there's more than one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone else was asking something. What?
Denise, have you, of all the First Lady crafts and sewing projects that you've done, have you encountered or done any other holiday related?
I haven't done it, but I have talked to the lady who made the kissing balls for the decor at the White House when Hillary Clinton was First Lady. That's Hyla Hurley, and she also used to do a big needlepoint of the White House every year and present it to the First Lady at the First Lady's luncheon. So she's done a lot of needlepoint for the holidays and for the First Lady's luncheon.
What about Barbara Bush?
Oh, Barbara Bush, yes, my mother's here to remind me. She read the book with me. Oh no! Now I have to behave. So for Barbara Bush, yeah, she did Christmas decorations. They did needlepoint decorations. We got to.
Job. Thanks, Deputy Attorney General Jeff Rosen now will become the.
Someone's got their mic on. But she did Raggedy Ann and Andy decorations in needlepoint, and she did oh, my mother will remind me, it was a nativity in needlepoint, and her needlepoint group down in Texas helped with that. The Saintly Stitchers, right? They're a great group. We got to chat with them once, hung out with them for a while. But she did those. I don't think any other needlework as far as related to the holidays for any of the other first ladies. Mainly Barbara Bush and Betty Ford.
What kind of fabric did you use? Did you have vintage fabric for your demos today, or how? What?
Like I said, this fabric is like straight out Holly Hobby 70s fabric, as far as I can tell. You can see it's really old out of my stash. And then this one, I just used some modern fabrics I had. So yeah, but you can use for this project, you can just use any kind of old scraps you have at home, which was what Betty intended. She really wanted people to be able to use scraps and just put these together on their own. And she even recommended using nylons, old nylons, to stuff the, I forgot to bring my nylons down, to stuff the ornaments with, because, you know, you get a run in your nylon, what are you going to do with it? Well, stuff an ornament with it, you know. That's what she recommended you used for stuffing. So she really wanted to do this as a kind of a make-do kind of thing that anyone could do on their own at home. And I'm kind of glad to hear that she did spend a lot of money, because that means she paid those people probably a good fair wage for their work.
At the Gerald Ford Museum in Grand Rapids, they have a whole 1976 patchwork, the quilts and things that people made that are exhibited there, or they have been. I'm not sure if they've moved things around a little bit, but if you want to see a lot of the patchwork stuff that was created for the bicentennial, it's at the museum.
Betty mentioned in one of the press releases for Christmas that she was really inspired by crazy quilts. But one of the other quilts that she talked about were like early settlers, pilgrims, who created quilts out of like white fabric, I think. And she was talking about seeing those and that experience, which really is an interesting contrast to that kind of 1970s pinwheel fabric that you see on the tree. So
yeah, well, I have one regret. I saw a thing on Etsy for that pinwheel fabric, and it looked exactly like the fabric she used for all those bows, and I didn't buy it. I don't know why I didn't buy it, and it was gone. And I was like, oh man, because it was exactly that pinwheel fabric that she used. And I just, I thought we could make a thing for a tree for at the First Lady's site, but I didn't get it, and then it was gone. But yeah, this was these projects were, you know, the crazy quilts were just a whole bunch of scrap fabrics that people pulled together in random order to make things. And there are a whole lot of different first ladies that have, there's crazy quilts out there that had their hand in making them. So
Didn't Ida McKinley knit? Did she knit ornaments too?
She knitted, but she mainly crocheted, and she crocheted a whole lot of slippers.
For the soldiers, wasn't it?
She did them for soldiers. She did them for friends, for family, as donations for places to sell them or raffle them to raise funds. She did a whole. She did what we 3,000 pairs, something like that. Yeah, there are records. She kept a meticulous record of the ones she made, what color they were, what size they were, who she made for them for, where they were. She kept a whole record of that. So yeah, she made a whole bunch of different slippers.
Well, thank you, Denise. I don't
That
know,
was nice.
this is a regular, I would say quarterly class that we've been doing. So we've transitioned pretty quickly to online. And if you have any First Lady inspired crafts that you're interested in doing, please reach out to us and we are happy to try to make those crafting dreams come true for you all. So if there's a First Lady that you know that did really amazing calligraphy or painting or China painting we've been looking at, or any kind of needlework, please track us down. And as well, I wanted to mention that we do a thing on social media with a different Sarah, who does Cooking with the First Ladies, a blog and Instagram account. And she is going to be doing a live cooking segment with us in January. So you can hop on to Zoom with us. Again, there's Eventbrite links in the right-hand chat. And we're going to send, thanks for participating tonight. I know with a recording, it can be kind of annoying, but we do plan to send a recording out of link to this for people who didn't get to participate tonight. And we'll also resend out links to those patterns, which are courtesy of the Johnson Library. The Ford. I don't know why I got Lady minded there for a second where I was going with that. But those come to us from the Ford Library, so we will send those out to you. And if we don't connect up again before the holidays, we want to wish everyone a very happy holiday, safe holiday. Take care and happy crafting.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, Denise.
Thanks, Denise.
I hope you all are able to make some ornaments.
Never know.
I'd love to see them.
Yes, please share us.
Yeah.
Share with us on social media or send us emails or images of your work. We would love to see them. So thank you so much for joining us. And it was so wonderful to connect with you all.